It is my pleasure to welcome our workshop presenter, Danny Chan, on how to organize online events, tips and tricks. Danny is an incredible Toastmaster. I have known him for a while and he is enthusiastic. He is engaged and always has a new idea about technology, which amazes me. Danny has been a Toastmaster since 2006. He belongs to the advanced 123 speakers and has held several roles in the district. Currently, he holds the role of the Division G Director for District 123.
Did you see the message that I started recording?
Outside of Toastmasters, Danny Chan is a graduate of the Second City Improv program and is listed in this year's Who's Who list of Legal Canada e-discovery practitioners. Please welcome our workshop presenter, How to Organize an Online Event with Tips and Tricks with Danny Chan.
Education program by
Thank you, Ayana.
effective training.
Although the workshop's called How to Organize an Online Event, everything I'm going to show you today is also compatible with any hybrid or in-person meeting. All these things have been developed from the days of when we used to meet in person. I've really just translated it to online. So this is not a one and done workshop. Whatever you learn here today can be used in the future when we do get back together. And because this is a how to organize, I'm not going to be presenting and reading to you 120 slides. I'm going to show you how to do things. Now, I see we have 100 or so people here online. I can only ask a few of you a question. And so you want to set up an online event. What kind of online events are we interested in? Let's hear from maybe Sue.
How about contests?
Speech contests, humorous contests, etc. How to organize those events to get people to attend. Excellent. Anyone else? Suzanne or Mariana?
Open house.
Open house events. We want to get the word out to get as many people to attend as well. Open house speech contests.
Educational sessions. That might be interesting.
Workshops like this one here, yes.
Yes.
And
special speakers, guest speakers.
Special guest speakers. And as a division director, I was using these skills and techniques for organizing club officer training, which is also important for everyone to attend. And because I was setting up an online or club officer training, like everyone who's organizing an open house or speech contest, I want as many people to attend those sessions as possible. So organizing these things behind the scenes takes some work. If you have an open house, you probably have a committee, maybe your VP PR or VP membership, to decide who's going to do what. And if you're going to have a speech contest, you're probably going to have several online meetings, perhaps a meeting to assemble your judges for their briefing. You may want to have a separate meeting for your contestants to brief them and pick the speaking order. And of course, you have your contest itself. You want to attract as many people to be there in attendance, because we as Toastmasters always want to speak to an audience instead of to a camera with no one behind the screen. So let me show you what we can do. I'm going to share my screen. So if we're setting up an online event, whether it's an open house, a speech contest, club officer training, or a workshop, we want to send out something that looks like this. And we want to get people registered. Now, I know some of us have used something like Zoom. You may want to set up a meeting, great. And I find Zoom, its features are kind of limited. I know you can have required registration, great. You can have all these little features, but I want to introduce you to an old friend of mine called Eventbrite. Eventbrite has been around before the pandemic, and Eventbrite is free. Just go to eventbrite.com and create a free account. And you can see here, I've used it to manage many Club Officer training events. And because this is a how-to, I want to show you the tips and tricks behind setting up an event in Eventbrite. Let's take the club secretary, for example. When you want to make an event, nice thing about Eventbrite, it has these wizards that show you step-by-step what you want to do. So the basic information is what we're going to start with. Pick a title. It could be your speech contest, open house, workshop, etc. In this case, it's my Club Officer training for secretary. Who's going to organize it? Be yourself. And then in this case, it's an online event. It could be a venue. Like I said, this works hybrid or in person as well. Single event is great. And you pick when you want to start, when you want to end, and that's the basic information. Moving on to the next box there. What are the details of your event? With Eventbrite, you have the ability to add pictures. And if you're ever wondering, where do those pictures come from? I have a great marketing team behind me at Toastmasters International. And as long as you have access to toastmasters.org, under Leadership Central, we have a brand portal. And in the brand portal, you have all the images you ever needed, so you don't have to make them on your own. And those graphics can be then sent and used in Eventbrite as I have done here, which looks more flashy, looks more professional than having a blank link in an email. Then you can give a summary. What's the session about and who? And I like to tell people that I don't want to give the link ahead of time. I want them to register so I get the information. So I don't post the link on my description. I just say it'll be sent to you when you register. Number 3 checkbox, the online event page. I don't use the add Zoom feature here, so we'll skip that box. And then it's all about tickets, tickets, tickets. I need to sell those tickets. So when we go to the ticket box, if you have a venue that can only hold, let's say 25 people, I don't recommend typing 25 as the number of tickets available, because what you'll find in reality is, although you may have 25 people registered, not all 25 will attend. So I don't want to discourage anyone from attending, so I pump up the number to 100. In this case, at 21, and it's free. And these other tabs here, don't need to touch those either. And then the last step of these 5 steps on the left are to publish your event. Now, before I publish my event, I want to do some tuning. So I can see what it looks like, great. And if I go to my dashboard, we've all seen events like this one. You'll notice at the bottom, there's a registration link. These links for me, when you have multiple events, multiple things coming into your inbox, I can't really tell by looking at this. It's not human legible for me to know that this link is for this event. And if you're going to have several events, you want to make sure that it stands out. So in Eventbrite, if you go to the bottom, you have the ability to edit your URL that you want to have. So in this case, it's for Division G and Secretary. You might want to say your open house or humorous speaking contest for your club and have that as the event URL. It looks nicer when it's your event.eventbrite.ca than having a long link like this one here. So this is one, you want to go to the dashboard to customize the URL link. As far as I know, I don't think you could do this with Zoom all that easily. Next would be the order options, and then it's the order form. Now, because I was saying Club Officer training, I want to get some information about these people. Obviously, I want to know their name, their email addresses. But I also want to ask some custom questions, such as what club they came from, name, division, district, etc. And you can customize these questions any way you like. So you can add a question, you have a prompt, and you have a choice of making a text box. They could fill in something about themselves, maybe a paragraph, or radio buttons, etc. I had multiple choice questions such as, which district do you belong to? 86, 60, or 123, or other. I also have a text box if they're going to type in their area they came from or their club name. It's good to have this information ahead of time in your registration for later, which I'll show you how we get the reports, so you can follow up. If you're having an open house, you may want to ask their name and email address, and maybe the reasons why they want to attend a Toastmasters club, so that your VP membership can then follow up with these people, because then you have the reasons why that member is attending your open house in the first place. If you have a speech contest, it'd be nice to know where they're from to follow up. And if you know which role they're registering for, then you can give them, then you can organize, okay, you're a contestant, you're going to go follow up with you here. If you're a judge, follow up with you there. And then as the organizer, you can see who's coming and where they sit. Let's go back to the order form. So there's a whole bunch of other checkboxes, just include or required. I made some fields mandatory because if I don't have their email address, I can't really give them credit for their club officer training. It's hard to follow up. I also make their club name mandatory and the district. You'd be amazed at how many people don't know their club numbers. So I don't want to force them there. We could look it up. And below that, I give them some instructions on when our event's going to start. And I like to have my event expire so I can finalize my list. And when it does, I just say it's sold out, etc. The next box is the order confirmation box. This is where you can put the details of what your speech contest or your open house. In this case, I'm thanking them for registering. I provide them some links for the leadership handbook. And this is where I attach the actual Zoom link. So once they registered and enter those custom questions for me, then I will provide them with the link. Another thing within Eventbrite that we have over Zoom is I can actually send a reminder to them with the link, because sometimes people register maybe a month in advance, and the day before that event or a few hours before, they can't find a link in their mailbox. It's quite full. So I like to send them a reminder email with the link again. And this is what it'll look like down here. And then you save your settings. Event type and language. Obviously, it's an online event in this case. Ticketed. Don't want to worry about that. I don't also use the waitlist feature. The more people, the better. And the marketing stuff, I don't want any social ads really or any kind of tracking. So I don't bother with the marketing part there. But I do want to manage attendees. I want to know who's coming to my event at any point in time, so I can plan. So you can see here all the tickets sold, great. But under manage attendees, the important ones here to go are the email to attendees. And this is where we send that 2-hour notice. So in this case here, I have 2 emails sent, once when they registered and 1 2 hours before my event started. And to do that, we just click new attendee email. You can customize this for your open house, or your speech contests. Put your name, email to all the attendees. I don't want to pick and choose. I just say all. And then type your message there. And this is where you can pick when to send that email. You can say maybe 2 hours before your event. If you say now, I might be doing my email at 2 in the morning. I'd rather send it maybe 2 hours before, because I know that way my email will be at the top of their inbox and they can find my link right away. Whereas if I bury it in there, so I don't recommend sending it 2 weeks in advance or 2 days in advance. 2 hours seems to be quite well. And this is where we could do that under email to attendees. Besides emailing to attendees, it's nice to have a report of who's coming. And that's under reports, event reports. Let's let the screen refresh here. And of all these tiles here, the main one I'm interested in is the attendee summary. Now the attendee summary in Eventbrite, if you have 1 or 2 attendees, it's fine, but here I have 21. And I want to do something with this. I can show the columns and customize it, and then you can export to Excel. Once you export to Excel, as in this case, I get to, for a club officer trainer, I can validate their credentials and validate which club they actually came from. So I can create my attendance list for my event. So in this case here, Excel is not too hard. You can see who's coming. I'll just highlight all those, do some Excel magic. Order number, I can hide that column. And quantity over to the attendee status, I can hide those columns as well. And this is where you get your details: names, email, club name, number, etc., and which area. And that way I can follow up. Any of these customized questions will come up in your report. So if you do have an open house event or do have a club contest, you can use that spreadsheet for your attendance. And that's our Eventbrite in a nutshell. I see we have some questions in the chat. Let's see what we got here. I'll put it over here so it's recorded. Hybrid, yes.
Danny, can I ask a question
Sure.
about the expiry? You said 20 minutes. That's 20 minutes after the start of your event.
I make it 20 minutes for my event to close so I can't have any new registrants. Because I want to be able to pull reports. I don't want new people showing up mid-session.
Right.
So I like to have a closeout.
Okay.
And 20 minutes before, come on, let's be reasonable, right?
Yes. Yes. I might go 10, but no closer. Also, within Zoom, you can link to Eventbrite.
That's right.
An app. But have you ever done that? Or do you suggest that that's really overkill?
So I use
Because-
Zoom to create my link. I provide a link in my Eventbrite ticket when they register, not the
Right.
other way around.
Okay.
And let me ask some questions here. So where do we go to set up our custom graphics for our event? Anyone? This is a little pop quiz to make sure people are paying attention.
On TI, you go to the brand portal.
brand portal, and then I can enter that basic information here.
Are you talking about Eventbrite?
In Eventbrite, where do I add the graphic? It's under details, right?
Under details, or even under the ticket as well, right?
Yes. And if I want to make a custom URL, where do I go in Eventbrite to do that?
Oh,
Into the dashboard.
That's correct. And I see in the chat we can use you can edit your registration link with bit.ly, but not with Zoom. What's bit.ly?
the key.
Bitly gives you the short URL.
It gives you a short URL, but I don't think it gets to describe your URL like you do in Eventbrite, right?
Yes, you can call it anything you want,
Well,
as long as it's 6 characters long, at least 6 characters.
Yeah, but it
So
won't
it
give
looks
you
like-
a customized URL like Eventbrite.
No, actually it does.
If you pay for it.
No, with the Easy Speak workshop next week, I customized the bit.ly so it said ES and the date.
Nice.
So we
Nice.
can shorten this whole URL down to how to organize an online event.
Yep, or yes. It
So that's
could've-
another place, another URL, another product to go to set up another account.
the thing with bit.ly, it's just a single use, as in you're just doing the shortened URL.
Okay.
It's not an event or anything. So it's an extra step.
Mhm.
So it's nice to have, but Eventbrite does.
Eventbrite has it right here.
Mhm.
And I don't think in Zoom you can actually take that shortened URL and add it into your Zoom meeting, right?
No, you can't.
You can take the Zoom long link, add it to your URL shortener app or website,
Yeah.
and then provide that where?
And
How
It-
do you send that message out to your registration people?
well, if you use bit.ly to shorten the URL, it's just appearing on the flyer. You click on it
Okay.
in
You'll
bit.ly.
have on the flyer, but then when they
It-
click this link, I want to get some information out of these people as like which
Yes.
club they came from, etc. And that's
Yes.
where we use Eventbrite, because that way I
Yeah.
can customize the questions
Yep.
in addition
Well-
to shortening the URL.
Yes.
Because another question is, where do we get the report of who's coming? Under reports?
Attendees
Yeah,
and the Excel
that's right.
document.
And the attendee summary. I don't believe in Zoom, when you create an event, do we get to have the same attendee report?
A single report that just lists the attendees,
Just the names?
just the names.
Do we get to add any custom questions? I don't see the button. here.
No.
We get the names and the email addresses because it's when we had our Zoom, we get that information by the questionnaire when they register.
But in the Zoom registration link here, can you ask custom questions as what club they came from, what district, what area, or why they're attending our open house?
No.
What do they
Yeah.
want to get out of a membership from Toastmasters?
You're just getting,
You're just
That's
getting the bare
right.
details, right?
yes,
This is why we prefer Eventbrite. I'll be the poster boy for Eventbrite today. And if we want to send people a follow-up email 2 hours before our event, where would I do that in Zoom?
you are going to have to manually do it. Come down to the bottom of this where your attendee list is and press the button that says send the
That's manually,
email.
right?
Yes.
And where do I do that in Eventbrite?
Automatically with
Under
the
emails to
and-
attendees, right?
Yep.
one.
And that way I can compose a custom email, provide links, and I can delay the time to 2 hours before, or I can pick and choose. And when you do create an attendee email, I'm also able to test that email. It's always recommended to test the email you're sending out to people 2 hours before. And to do that at the bottom, I had to send test to yourself. Then you can see what it's going to look like. Anything you want to correct, you correct it now instead of later. Because once the email is gone, I can't retrieve and call it back. So it's nice to be able to test what you're sending out. So you can see what the attendees will see. So that's a nice feature for Eventbrite as well.
I have a question, Danny.
Yes.
So the recommendation is to use Eventbrite, but in Zoom, we have a link that's asking for registration. Would you suggest in that case that we do not set up a registration in Zoom
Correct.
and then a registration again in Eventbrite? Because it's a lot to take in.
Yes. So I use Eventbrite to do my registration. When I set up the Zoom meeting, I do not select this button. So why make people register twice? I'm using Zoom because it's an online event. If this was in person, I don't even bother the Zoom part. I'm directing people to where we're going to meet. City Hall, again, the address information, maybe a map, a Google map to where my event is, where to park. Information like that is what I can do with Eventbrite. Because like I said, Eventbrite was available way before the pandemic. And if you're going to have an in-person meeting, I don't think I would set up a Zoom link and register there. And especially if it's hybrid, where I'm going to have people in person and online, I don't want to have Zoom manage that. In a hybrid case, I can create an event with instructions for where to meet in person. And for those people attending online, here's the registration link, or here's the link to our Zoom meeting so they can attend. That's how we can use Eventbrite to manage both online and hybrid meetings. And it's been around way before when we used to organize in-person meetings. That's why this is not a one and done workshop where we only talk about how to manage online events only. I'm hopeful someday in the future, we'll be able to meet in person again. And Toastmasters has been around for more than 100 years. And I foresee 100 years more at least. And as club officers, as people within Toastmasters, we'll always have a need to organize an event, whether it's an open house, a speech contest, or a club officer training, or a workshop. We need to be able to organize those registration lists and not think short-term only with Zoom. I'm looking for a solution that can be that's suitable for both online and hybrid and in person. And with that, I know we have a lot of attendees here. Are there any other questions?
Danny, not so much a question, but well, I guess it is a question. You didn't choose Zoom when you were setting up Eventbrite. Have you ever used it where you've used Zoom app and used it on the Eventbrite online page where people just signed into Eventbrite and clicked the link in there?
I find when you do that, you lose some control. I like to control who gets the link and when and where. So when they see my ad for the Eventbrite and just click to see, am I interested in attending or not, they don't get the Zoom link right away. I'd rather they get the Zoom link after they register and I get some information from them, then I will provide it to them. So I don't use the heavy integrations within these apps because then they're going to fire automatically. You can't intercept or edit or change anything. Because I know Zoom interfaces with a lot of applications, interface with Slack, with Eventbrite, etc. For my purposes, setting up online events, I'd rather have full control over who gets what and when. Does that answer your question, Dennis?
Yeah, I think just some of the advantages might be that it's a separate link for people. They don't actually get the link, you're just clicking a button. And all you have to do is go to Eventbrite to the event and just go to the online portal and then boom, you can click. That might be good for larger events, just so you're not resending out links and stuff. But I tested it, but I've never tried it for an actual event. So I was curious if you have.
So this is how we, go
I
ahead.
have a question. So in case we have a multiple events going on, how would you recommend that we manage those links? This is for one specific workshop, correct?
Well, actually, I had events for multiple. So if I browse or manage my events, Club Officer Training is not one, there are several roles. And in this case, I had one for secretary, sergeant at arms, treasurer, etc. And each one had tracking for who is attending which session. And in my case, I have on different days. This could be all on the same day as well. But then you have your separate lists. So when I have to take attendance, I can already organize who's coming to my secretary versus who's coming to club president. If I have one link for my mega event, let's say a TLI event where you might have all your club officer training on the same day, that's a long list to go through. And if you hold people up in your Zoom settings to, let's say, wait in the, what do they call it in Zoom? The
Waiting for
the waiting room.
Yeah.
And then then it's a mad rush to let people in. This way you can let everyone in and you have the attendance list already and you can just check them off. So I know in the past we had people log in an hour in advance or half hour in advance so we can get your attendance done. Because the logistics behind the larger events is we need to make sure people are there who are qualified to be there, should be there, and want to give them credit for that. Let's say like I did the election runner in the past. We can't just have everybody come and vote. They have to be a qualified candidate or qualified people to vote. So we can use Eventbrite for that as well. And for club officer training, what I also do with these reports is you want to work with your trainers. As a trainer, they may want to know who's coming so they could send questions ahead of time and ask the attendees, okay, you're coming for club officer training for club president. Have you done this role before? Yes or no? Or what are the 3 things you want to get out of this club training? And that way the trainer can send these questions to the attendees ahead of time, get their feedback, and that way they can tailor their session to the audience that's attending. Instead of 20 faces come up at 7 p.m., who are you and why are you here? It's the trainer's option to send those emails ahead of time. So that's always good to have. And if you're going to do an online event like an open house, You may have one event, usually one day for your open house and one time. It's nice to know who's coming because maybe you're catering, maybe you're going to have some food and beverages available. You would like to know, do I have 2 people or 20 people? And then I know, then you can interface with the sergeant at arms to say, okay, we need this many seats, for example. And then you know what you're expecting instead of a surprise. You have 100 people attending your event. So, oh, I didn't know that. So it's nice to be prepared and plan. And a part of the planning is to know who's coming. Because just because you create these events and the links out there in the cloud doesn't mean you're going to get all 100 people showing up.
We have a question from Sue.
Okay, Sue?
Yes, just to clarify, when you're doing the officer training and you have the Eventbrite set up separately for each officer, which by the way, I think is brilliant. I had the long list I had to go through, but you were giving them all the same Zoom link. Am I correct on those emails?
If you're going to have the same day, same time, and same Zoom meeting, the same Zoom link, yes.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
In my case, the sessions were spread across the week, so I gave specific Zoom links for each officer training.
But when it's one event, they don't realize they're all ending up in the same place.
That's right.
Because they've registered separately.
Yes, but now you have tailored lists per session.
Perfect. Thank you.
And who is setting up speech contests? Because that's speech contest season is coming up soon. So when you're organizing a speech contest, what do you need to think about? One is you want to organize the roles and responsibilities. Who's going to be your chief judge? Who's going to be your judges, timers, ballot counters, etc. There's a whole cast of characters behind a speech contest you want to organize for. So part of planning for a speech contest event is to have maybe a spreadsheet with the names. And when I set up for a speech contest, just as I did for club officer training, it's always a good idea to have a backup. I had 5 trainers backed up for each role because at the last minute, someone can back out. Something came up, Danny, I can't do the president's training. Then you're scrambling. This way I have a roster of 5 people behind each role. If you're going to have a club contest or any speech contest at area or division levels, I recommend having backups for every role. Well, 2 timers not enough. Get 2 more. Hot standbys. Judges, same thing. Have a hot standby because you never know. Someone may cancel. And you don't want your whole event to fall through because someone unfortunately had to cancel. Because these are large events. You have a lot of people attending your speech contest. A lot of people have been assembled. And if your chief judge just happens to cancel on you, what do you do? So it's always a good idea to have a backup. If you're going to have an open house, you may have a guest speaker. Have 2. Hot standby. Or 3. Because what will happen to your open house if your guest speaker unfortunately got stuck in traffic and can't make it? Have a hot standby for all significant roles. Okay? Because it's best to be prepared. Don't go by the bare minimum having only 1 person per role, because that's where you're going to fall into trouble, and that's when it gets stressful. And I don't have any hair left to pull out of my head. And if you're going to have, so speech contests, always have backups, open house backups. If you're going to have a workshop, this is an unusual workshop, we have 1 presenter. When I attend workshops for work, we always have a panel, maybe 5 people speaking. So that if 1 person misses their flight, can't attend that conference, or for whatever reason, they can't show up, you have a large conference where people have paid money to attend. If 1 out of 5 panelists doesn't show up, that's fine. Conference goes through. If you have a conference where you have 1 keynote speaker and that keynote speaker doesn't show up, how successful will your event be? So have your backups prepared and plan these out ahead of time, not the day before. And the briefings for your judges, your contestants, doesn't have to be done on that day. Be respectful of people's time. You can have those meetings a week in advance or earlier. So when the contest starts, everyone knows what the speaking order is. Then the contest chair can announce that all the judges have been qualified and briefed. All the contestants have been qualified and briefed as well. And we're able to proceed with the speech contest. So you don't delay anything that way. And what was the other kind of online event we're talking about today? Workshops. You may want to coordinate with your workshop presenter ahead of time to get them the list. So they, I'm preparing for, in this case, a handful of people so I can make it more intimate. I don't have to create a PowerPoint with 120 slides and read them to you. I can be more interactive and talk to each person and address your concerns live and in person. So you don't see me reading on the side a script, because I find that personally very boring. I can interact with you one-on-one and ask you any question you have and be able to answer. Because this is a workshop, we're going to do work. Instead of me reading a book from Toastmasters.org, because that will put us all to sleep. And I thank you all for attending on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. to see the workshop presented by one presenter, myself. And I'm going to be followed by a second act, Dennis Bartel, who's going to be talking all about parliamentary procedures. We're all pumped for that. And you had your hand up, Michelle?
Sorry. Publicity. That always seems to be the sticking point. So you plan your event, your work, you have everything lined up. You publicize on Facebook on 6 groups, and you still get 10 people only. So what kind of ideas do you have, or does the group have, for publicizing inside Toastmasters and outside?
Okay. So for club officer training, I would talk to all my area directors to then contact your club presidents and get those. I want to target the officers.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a workshop like this one here, which would be helpful to anyone who wants to organize an event, not only district leaders, we do have a calendar on district or Toastmasters123.org. I noticed this event was not posted there. So ideally, if you have a district calendar, you should post it there. I know there's some challenges because we have certain people to go through and they need some lead time for that. Another place you can post it besides the district calendar, there's the Facebook groups, but that requires someone with a Facebook account who's actually logging in once in a while to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Facebook, that feeds live and dynamic. It just scrolls up. It's hard to find an event that was posted 2 weeks ago. And you don't want to bombard people by posting the same workshop every day. Other places you could post it. I know in District 123, we have Slack. We can have a specialized Slack channel for workshops and post our postings there. So they will stay there and only move up as new workshops show up. Because if we post to the general feed, in general, anything can go there.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, it'll be moved in the past. It won't be in people's radar that way. So we may want to set up a separate channel in Slack. If you have a WhatsApp group, I know I sent it out to, that's why Thibaut's here. I sent to my area council or my division council, I guess, in the Slack, in the WhatsApp channel. So it's a part of our club success plan, our area success plan, division 6 plan. How do you want to communicate with your people? There's a box for that. In my case, I use WhatsApp. You may want to have a newsletter. If you're a VP PR, you might have a newsletter going out to people within your geography for an open house, because ideally you want people who are from your geography to join your club. If you post on WhatsApp or on Facebook, or maybe YouTube, for example, the person viewing your YouTube page doesn't necessarily live within driving distance of your club. They could be on another side of the planet. So why would I want to market my event to someone over there? In my case, I marketed to the district123.org calendar for the club officer trainings. And I noticed not many people from District 123 attended my training sessions. A lot of people from District 86, a lot of people from District 60 attended the training. And very few people from Division G clubs attended my training. A lot of people from other divisions attended my training. And it doesn't bother me because I'm sure a lot of my officers attended their training sessions. We're all Toastmasters. And I tell people, the important part is you get the training. I don't care which district you come from 1 to 123. Choose one. Choose something that fits for you. Because when we're trained, we're more able to do our jobs. And rather, the credits equal whether you take it with District 60, 123, or 86. And in some cases, the trainers are the same anyway. And the idea is to get the credit because that counts towards your DCP or your Distinguished Club points. Because we all know about the Distinguished Club program. It's very important. Iona has drilled into my head, as well as anyone else, that we have to get the training done. That's why these workshops are available for us, because we want people to have more successful online events where we can publish. We want to be able to track and to manage that a little more, less chaotically. Because you could forego the Eventbrite. Why don't I just, yell out my neighborhood, I got open house. Great, but no one's going to hear it. If the message is not received, no one's going to attend. So target your marketing, how you want to publicize it, depending on the event. An open house, think about who do you want to join your club. If it's a women's only club, no need sending me the email. You want to target those organizations who might be interested. If you have a French language club and you have an online club and it's going to be online forever, you might want to target French speakers. Because I'm doing club officer training, I'm targeting all the current club officers within all the clubs. If you're going to have a speech contest, what would your audience be for that one there? For speech contests, I'm going to have a division contest eventually. As soon as people renew their memberships and become clubs in good standing. I know everyone here has renewed their memberships, right?
So every club in divisions G, or I don't know, G, it's your target.
Well, that's my, well, Iona can chime in here, but it's my performance as division director. I think it's tied to how many club officers within my division get their training. Whether everyone in District 60 gets trained as the Division G director in District 123, I don't get any credit for that. But because there's no cost with an online meeting to have people from outside my district, I will allow it. If I was charging money and if I want to be greedy that way, maybe I only open it and target Division G officers. So I get all my Division G officers trained. But we're not Toastmasters like that. I want to open to all. And if you're having an open house, you have other materials available to you, because we know that Toastmasters don't join and stay forever. If you have a list of people who haven't attended Toastmasters meeting for a while, or who have not renewed for a while, why not reach out to a previous Toastmaster to see if they're interested in attending your open house, to reinvigorate. And a previous Toastmaster still counts as a new member when you activate them. So depending on your event, you can target. Because just because I post on Toastmasters123.org calendar for an open house or a club, targeting that previous member of that club is more successful in my opinion. So it just depends on your event, how you want to market it. I know some people here have set up some conferences. Iona, when you were planning your TLI event, how did you market your event?
Well, we set up the registrations. I sent it to all the division directors. We posted it on Facebook. We sent emails. It was done through the newsletter, and we repeated it at the deck. We repeated it many times. And I think because we were blessed to have so many people wanting to attend, and the word got out, and it was the first training. So that's how we marketed it. First to the division directors, and we put it on Slack. We put it everywhere, given that it was a new division. And yes, I do understand that some of the others are having challenges getting the word out, but I think the need was to have the officers training. The members know and the officers know that this is important for them. So they latched onto it. So if the audience wants it, and I think that's what self-promotes itself. And then the presidents, I think, also relayed it to their members, and we started tracking it, and that's what was important. So
Yes.
That's what we did with the training. And now we have round 2 coming up again in November. So here we go again. And I love that you've added all these things about Eventbrite and everything. So yes, promotions are the most important thing to get the word out.
So for a TLI event, you want to cast as wide a net as possible. I don't recommend that strategy for an open house, for example, because you might attract too many people outside of your geographical area. And then the chances of conversion, because that's what's important for an open house, not just having people attend, but converting into a new member. You get 1 DCV point for 4 new members, an additional DCV point for another 4 members. So if you have an open house with 100 people attending and no one joins your club, how successful was that event? The success is tracked to what are the deliverables at the end of the day. With an open house, you're looking for members. With a TLI event for club officer training, you're looking for club officers to be trained. If it's a workshop like this one, I'm reaching out to a small audience. We kind of intimate conversation back and forth, because I know that this is going to be recorded and posted to YouTube in the future, so that other people who cannot attend this workshop can watch it later. And that's why I had a how-to session earlier on where I went through all the Eventbrite settings and focused on the key ones. Instead of having a link to the manual for Eventbrite, go watch it. That to me is not a workshop or a how-to. That's more a referral. If you want to go there. Just like for club officer training, I'm not going to read the entire club leadership handbook. I'll provide a link.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to have a speech contest, you have to be careful there too. Because if you go too broad, what happens is you steal that speaker's thunder, and it might hurt them in further judging later on. And you can get overexposure. So that's the tactics of the speaker. If you're going to compete in an international speaking contest, for example, do you want to also attend every open house to be a guest speaker so that everyone within the whole district has seen you before and saw your speech already? You may want to hold back and keep your powder dry. So when you reach the higher levels, your speech is still fresh. So you want to practice your speech, refine it for that final event, but you don't want to go too broad at the very beginning and overexpose yourself. So there's some tactics there for speech contests. And then judges, refer to the judging handbook or to the speech contest handbook. You want to have your judges not all come from the same place, especially for area division. You got to spread it out. And for that, I would talk to all my area directors to select different judges from each area. So we're not top heavy, or you don't want to give any kind of bias that way. And then you want to also communicate with your, like within Toastmasters, there's always a chain of command you'll find. As a division director, I don't email the actual members directly. I cascade down to the area directors, who cascade down to the presidents, and could cascade below that. And my direction to the area directors, who then integrates with club presidents, is to, okay, so there's no one who wants to compete in the contests at your club. Fine. But would you like to be volunteer for a role? Oh, you know, I'm new to Toastmasters. That's okay. How about as a timer? Because I find giving them the exposure to a speech contest, they're more likely to have that person in the future attend as a contestant or as a judge, and it's not as intimidating. Just like when we have Toastmasters join our club for the first time, I don't put them in the general evaluator role. Have them be a timer, an unmod counter. You can progress them up. Same thing for speech contests, same thing for club officer training. As a club officer trainer in the past, I took the role as division director. I can then organize club officer training events because I have that experience. I don't think I would be as confident if I've never taken any of those roles in the past and to be elected as a division director. That's why it's also important for VP of Education to manage their members, to have them develop with some measure of success. You got to give them a helping hand in some way. Otherwise, they'll fail. And if they fail, they won't like it and they won't come back. All right. So each event has a different marketing strategy depending on what your goals are. And it's important as the organizer to understand what are the deliverables. Do I want new members? Do I want every officer trained? Or do I want to educate as many people within my district when presenting a workshop? Or if it's a guest speaking, I know we had a lot of workshops at the very beginning of our term for club quality, club growth. All those valuable workshops are great, but you want to target your audience. So club growth, maybe you're going to target all your VP membership, VP of PRs. Does the sergeant arms or does the treasurer have to attend those workshops? They can if they want, but who are you really targeting? That's what's more important. So to me, it's more about the quality versus the quality. I know this is going to go to YouTube. It has the potential of being seen by millions because it's going to go viral. But who am I actually targeting? People within the District 1, 2, 3 who may be preparing for speech contests, who may be preparing for open houses. I know we have area directors here who may be preparing for their area contests. Iona's here. She's going to be preparing for her next TLI event. So everyone has a different takeaway. And I like how we have a smaller audience here where I can address each person one-on-one. And with that, I know we started a little early. We could finish a little early. Are there any outstanding questions? I'll check the chat now. I don't see any. Anyone else? Otherwise, I look forward to hearing from you in the future. I want to have another workshop in January the 10th about lights, camera, action. Anything you want to know about lighting for your online meetings? The camera I use, the cheap webcam in my laptop, or the built-in microphone in my computer, right? I only use the stuff built into my computer. And this is a virtual background behind me. And that workshop's coming on January 10th. And followed by that, what other workshops do we have there, Michelle? I think we have something in March, right?
We do. We have several workshops coming up and we'll be listing them. We have one coming up on Friday for brand new members, and that is to help the Vice President of Education, and it's about pathways. And on Saturday, we have Easy Speak by our very own Tanya Ferris, and several more to come. We've got some evaluation workshops and leadership workshops, so they will be on the district calendar. Yes, it's a little bit of a challenge, but I'm sure we can overcome that.
And we'll promote it here to all those attendees so you know.
How to present online, and then a refresher on running a contest in January in case we forget between now and then.
Okay, so stay tuned to the district calendar for all these events to be listed. And perhaps we'll have someone send out a newsletter. We'll check. But with that, we have and then the next workshop, an important workshop, starting in about 60 seconds, all about Parliamentary Procedure 101 by my friend and buddy and peer, Dennis Bartel. With that, I'll conclude my workshop and pass it over to Dennis. Thank you for all attending.